down there in Dixie. But the main one that stuck on me was whiskey.
Welcome to another episode of the Bourbon and Ballistics Podcast, the show where we talk a little about whiskey, a little about firearms, and a whole lot of everything in between. I'm your host, Joel Potter. I invite you to sit back, relax, pour yourself a glass as we talk some bourbon and ballistics. Today's show, very exciting show for a number of reasons. I got Dennis McDuffie here with me. How are you, Dennis?
I'm doing fantastic, Joel.
Good. Yeah, you are over at Intero.
Yes, sir.
You are a broker or salesperson and broker?
I am.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And this is going to be kind of new for me because I am super dumb in real estate. So it's going to be super exciting for me to learn a lot of this and just kind of take me through, the journey. I did a little bit of reading on you today. Visited your LinkedIn just to kind of see what you've been up to. And
oh God, I don't even go on LinkedIn. Yeah.
you got it. You got it pretty good now. So I don't think you need to worry about it too much. But anyways, one of the things that we super cool is Oligarch Whisky a couple weeks ago had reached out to me and asked if I wanted to try a bottle of their whiskey. And of course I said yeah. And so I thought it was almost kind of a joke, right? And then so, a few days ago, box shows up, mail call, Oligarch Whisky shows up in the mail. And I thought what better person to share a Irish inspired whiskey than my buddy Dennis McDuffie.
The Irishman drinking Irish
sir.
whiskey.
So yeah, the only thing I do know about you is you have you always offer me shots when we're out on the ride of Jameson, and it's a lot of fucking Jameson, and it's not my thing, but you're very persuasive, and I never say no, but it always makes for a good time. So.
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, it's like my thing. We owned an Irish bar. It was called McDuffie's. I don't know if you ever went there. You're probably way too young, but it's where Buckaroo's is now. Yeah. And so we had this Irish bar, and a friend of mine who's a Marine, James Madsen, the neatest man in the whole world, he said, so you have an Irish bar, but you don't have any Irish whiskey? And we had all this different Irish whiskey, and he goes, you don't have Jameson? And I'd never drank Jameson before.
No.
And that was the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Haven't looked back since.
No.
Well, this one, so it's relatively new. So from the research that I did, it's being imported into Miami only by the White Gold Club out of Miami, Florida. And so it is labeled as a 6-year triple distilled. So that's with the Irish influence but it's coming from the Republic of Moldova.
Oh.
Yeah, so I have no idea. I've Peacock and Bourbon did a review on it and was impressed with it. So I figured, what the hell? It can't be that bad. It's an 80 proof. It's a 6-year. It's a blended whiskey. It's comprised of an undisclosed mash bill of malts and grains. So they do say they have a lot of nice things to say about it on the back of the bottle. That we're going to get notes of vanilla. We're going to get sherry and dried fruits. So I can't be that bad. So let's get this poured up and let's talk some bourbon and ballistics.
Yeah, that's kind of cool, man. I really, there are a few whiskeys out there that I've tasted that I'm like, oh, I don't know if I could drink this on a pretty regular basis, but that doesn't happen that often.
Right. And one of the coolest things about this, and if it is worth the drink, it is $22.
Oh shit! Really?
So ideally, when they do go national with this stuff, $22 if it's good. I mean, and 6 years. I mean, so it might be a good investment. I don't know. We'll see. Go ahead and give it a sniff and.
Ooh, shit! That's nice.
I mean, it
doesn't bite your head off right when you drink it.
No, it's got. I mean, it pretty much it drinks its proof for sure. It's nice and light, mellow. I definitely can taste the sherry though. Little oaky. Very interesting.
I like that.
I'm gonna say it's definitely worth $22.
So Joe, I got to tell you, like, usually when you'll take a whiskey, the very first shot will blow the back of your head off, or it's one of those things that's like too light. This is kind of right in the middle.
That's true. And then, we've had some, and I'm not going to talk about which bottle, but it's over here somewhere, that was just terrible, right? And it was unfortunate because of the spokesperson for the bottle. I had higher hopes for it. And so this one, definitely different than I think anything that I have on the shelf right now, no doubt. But yeah, I mean, thank you, Oligarch. That's I definitely appreciate it, and have no problems saying this is worth $22.
Yeah, well done, man. Yeah. Nice price point too. There's some of the things that I think we're finding in the alcohol industry is that things got so expensive. Sure. Remember, it was like just crazy, and to see a price point of $22. I mean, just, this is a terrible thing to say, but when you go to buy a bottle of your regular whiskey that you drink, and you're spending $60-$70 for a bottle of wine, and this is something that you want to enjoy on a daily basis, like me. But if it's too expensive, it just gets to the point where it's too expensive to drink.
Correct.
This is a good one.
Yep. Yeah, that's and like I said, as soon as it only available in Miami right now. So I heard through the grapevine that they are looking to go to bigger markets, Texas, California, some other places. But.
Do you find that these whiskeys that you do the interviews with, everything gets broken in Texas?
A lot of it, they can drink it, and the Texas market is booming. The Texas whiskey market is huge.
For manufacturing or just drinking?
Yeah, no, for manufacturing. A lot of the Still Austin. I'm going to forget an absolute shit ton of them, but there's so many good Texas distilleries, and it's something about the soil, right, in Texas, and they have the elevation and the humidity, and it does something with the grains. It definitely makes it taste a lot different than you would think from a Kentucky bourbon or a Kentucky whiskey. It doesn't matter. Look at the difference from the grains that are grown here, in Fallon, right? It's interesting to see that it's not just Kentucky anymore.
Yeah.
Texas market's huge, and I would definitely, if you see some still Austin on the shelf, I would give it a try.
I've never had it before. Yeah. It's crazy what's happening just in the liquor business itself. I was talking to this person that owns a huge winery, and I did not know, but the wine business is suffering big time right now. And I didn't know that because they got too expensive. And then I guess the amount of grapes that were being produced by all the little guys, and then they were all being I'm just talking like Amador County and Napa, just close to us, they're losing money. And so these tasting fees that they were charging these exorbitant amounts in Napa and stuff, they can't get them anymore. And so a lot of these small time farmers they're closing their vineyards. They're actually not, they're letting their vines die because it does not make sense for them to even do it. Really? They're losing money. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
Yeah, and so I wonder, whiskey is a big thing, and beer. You got all these different microbreweries are coming up. So I wonder how whiskey's going to fare.
Well, and it's interesting because I've been seeing a lot of articles lately about the distilleries, because of the profit, have been overproducing. And now, to your point, is people are reaching that threshold where they're like, I'm not going to pay that much money for what this is. I mean, there is some stuff out there, and there's some unicorns that you can go find. You have to have it because it's sentimental to you, or it's part of a series. You wanted whatever, Rick House, whatever, right? There's always these things, or you wanted something that was distilled on your son's birthday, right, to drink with him when he's 21. But ideally, you're, just like anything, you're trying to produce enough to make profit that you're not having a lot of excess. And what we're finding is people are kind of, they're still buying it. I'm still buying it. But the point is that people are going, I don't want to pay that much money for it anymore. So
I think we hit our price point.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's, conclusive with any market. Is it just spirits? I don't know. But it's interesting because I didn't know that about wine. That's interesting.
Wine's struggling big time right now. But like just everything across the board, Joel, it's so weird. In construction, as you are in, you start seeing we're hitting our price point where it's costing too much money to build houses. It's costing too, and the affordability, when interest rates are really low, you can inflate everything as high as you want to go. So these houses that were $600,000-$700,000, but people live in their payment, right? And so when you're at that point where I don't care, as long as my house payment doesn't go above $2,500. If it's an $800,000 house, I'm all right with that.
Yeah.
Now, when you bump up these interest rates to 7%, and that rate's not going away anytime soon. People are at that point where they're frozen because they are at that. I live in this house right now. Would I like to have a bigger house? Yeah, I'd love to have a bigger house, but I don't want to have that giant payment. And we went through this weird little dichotomy where, people talked about interest rates, in the 70s and 80s when they were 18, 20%. I mean, I hear this all the time. And then when interest rates came down to 7%, they were just like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing in the whole world. But then you have to realize houses were they were half the amount or a quarter of the amount of what they are now. So you could have a higher interest rate and still get a payment that was somewhat, but now we've got such high prices, and the interest rates really affecting, especially first-time home buyers and people that are trying to move up or move down. They're frozen because they got this interest rate that's 2.5%, 3%. Yeah. And why do you walk away from that?
You can't, right? And I was going to ask you about that because it is, in very locally minded. The houses that are being built, I don't see, unless you're coming from over the hill as a first-time home buyer, an opportunity to be able to walk into anything that's actually currently being built.
And that's the situation. Yeah. People are frozen. They would love a bigger house. They'd love a bigger garage, and so you're starting to see a big shift in the market because they know that rates are not coming down anytime soon, and it's a function of the Federal Reserve, because we as Americans are still buying like crazy, and our inflation is still going up. Even at 7%, our inflation's still going up. So it's just it's sad because it just spurs so many different businesses. If they could just bring it, like the car industry right now, when you're paying that much money for an interest rate, that's terrible. Yeah. It's absolutely terrible to think that people are paying a house payment for a car right now. A truck is $100,000.
That's so crazy to me. I can't even, to this day, I mean, that mine's a 14, right? And I cannot fathom ever getting rid of that thing just because it's like, to go get that exact same truck now, you're looking at, it's probably starting like 50, 60 grand. And it's, it's a tradesman, it's not, it's a work truck, it doesn't have anything cool in it. And to ever step away from that, I just can't imagine.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting what's going to happen over the next 4 years. That's all I got to say.
And I think that the shakeup, a lot of people are pissed off, and it's. I mean, I want to talk about it because it is so intriguing to me. Like the two sides of the country right now, like just totally. Everybody is totally on one side of the fence, the other. There's no middle ground anymore, right? And it's like the Doge. Coming in there and exposing all this frivolous government spending, people are really fucking mad about it, and I can't understand how
or why
that doesn't benefit the American people, right? What is it the prying that's making people so upset? I mean, what's your take on that?
I think that the whole thing is being exposed, and the nuttiest part about it is, and I'm not calling people ignorant, but not informed. They're starting to see. The thing I heard today, it's the nuttiest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. We were paying for sex changes in, I think, Nicaragua, and we were spending I forgot what it was, $20 million a year. Us as Americans were paying taxpayers' dollars to send money to Nicaragua so people could have sex. I can't even but that's what they're flushing out. And this is one thing I'm completely fascinated about. What is this? Is this AI? They just put in this like little thing and they say, okay, federal government, flush out all this screwed up. I mean, I don't know.
How are they finding it? Yeah.
How are they finding all of these things? But the doing away with the penny, and then I think the nickel's coming next, and like it doesn't make sense to do that. But we were just doing it just because it was status quo, and every president's always done it. And you know, I don't know whether you like Trump or you don't like Trump. I really don't care, but just to have somebody to be able to go in there and mix it up, it just blows my mind. Things that I do get really, really concerned about, though, is personal information. And AI does terrify me in that because, yeah, we're going to expose a lot of stuff, but they're also going to find out a lot of stuff about us, you know, our firearms. This is a big part of your show, right? I'm terrified to know that we could be numbered because we have firearms. I mean, do they know? How would they? I don't know. Like, but the fact that they are able to binarily check us and go through our lifestyle and see what guns we have or what ammunition we buy, and that's all that's not AI. That's all somebody that's not sitting behind a desk counting. This
Unchecked,
is
just going.
Oh my, it's terrifying to me. Absolutely. But on the other side, yeah, are we going to flush out a lot of, you know, terrible government spending? Yeah.
I saw one thing that was people were upset because of the private information, and it was with Elon Musk's PayPal. Is it PayPal that he owned? Yeah.
And then he sold that.
Yeah, he sold it, and then with that went all the privacy of all the people that had it. And so I think that the big takeaway from that is that if there was going to be compromised information from Elon Musk, it's already been, and that was long before this ever happened, right? And so I think that there's I don't know. I would like to have the conversation with somebody that's sitting on that, like the protest up in Reno or whatever, or Carson the other day, right? And hundreds of people. I couldn't go because I was at work, but I wanted to go down there and hang out with those guys, you know. But
what was it about? I don't know what you're talking about.
They were just protesting the Doge and Trump and all this stuff. It's tough, but I just want to know, like, what are they so pissed off about, right? Is it the immigration reform? And there's a lot of things that, you know, there's a lot of things to be upset about, right? But it seems like people are just like folding all of this anger and all this torment and just pushing into this one envelope and just going, you know, we're pissed and there's no particular reason why, and they can't formulate a sentence to have a decent conversation. They just yell and get all fucking fired up at you, and it's weird.
I know. And there's so many uninformed people that are just so passionate about things that they think that they know what's right, and they truly don't understand the repercussions of what's going on. And this is the rest of our lives, right? We're only in the beginning stages, and because he's doing what he's doing, there's going to be some serious repercussions.
Oh, sure.
There's going to be some waves. I mean, he is busting up shit that needed to be busted up a long time. When you have politicians that are making so much money, and I know all this stuff has already been said, but when you have all these people that had no money and now they're multimillionaires and they're in special interest group, all that's getting the Band-Aid ripped off. And yes, there is going to be a lot of people making a lot of money. And that's just the way that it's going to go. And I hate to say this, but it's just the beginning. It's I can't imagine year 2.
Right. If he's going at this speed, at this pace, and just keeps, you know, I guess as an administration, but if they're going this hard and can continue to keep that
right
up, what is next, right? It does get interesting. One of my favorite memes that I've seen in the last couple of weeks is, you know, when all this shit's coming out that the right's going to get exposed too. And I said, you know, and the meme just says good. The whole shit. I mean, it's been, I think, long enough to where we forget that all those people in office are supposed to be working for us, right? Instead of their own special interests and getting rich while they're in office for, you know, 90 fucking years and don't really have to perform, right? And so, I mean, it's the government layoffs and stuff. I mean, I think that if these people are talented enough and I'll talk to you about this in a second, but if they're talented enough, they should have no problems going and finding, a legitimate job that does the same thing that they were supposed to be doing at the other job. And it sucks to say, just moving agencies.
No.
But it happens all the time, right?
I know.
So.
And the other thing too that I think is so efficient about this, but it's got its cons too, is you have a bunch of people that are later in their career, right? So they're at the top of the food chain. They're making more now because they deserve to. They paid their dues. They've done, and he's mailed them a letter. I'm just talking about the federal government. He's mailed them a letter that says, "Hey, here's your check. You guys want out early? This is your chance to get out early." Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that are on disability. There's a lot of people, and what he's doing is he's taking all of that, because you can hire all these other people for much less money, but they don't have the expertise. Obviously, that's going to come in time. But there are tons and tons of people that are at their 30-year mark, and yet they're signing on for more time because their job is so cush. I mean, they get this fat ass check and benefits and these incredible retirement plans. But he's putting an end to all of that. And I don't know if that's Elon Musk or if that's Donald Trump or just the administration, but just to take that into consideration, our whole country, like how many people are in the federal government? Like how many people? And then I'm going to blow your mind. What about national tax? Mm-hmm. What about doing just with no IRS? Mm-hmm. What about doing, this is probably going to go out and get us both killed, but I'm going to tell you, this is like the crazy shit in the whole world. Do away with the IRS,
I know. 100%.
Holy shit. Yeah. But think about how scary that is for you and me. Mm. There's no hiding. There's no writing that off on your tax. There's no depreciation schedules. There's things that we benefit from, a lot of us that have rental properties and investment, all these different things that we get to depreciate. That all goes away, I think. This basically turns into, and it passes on to the buyer. So every time you're going to buy something, I don't care if it's a house, a car, a gun, I don't care. You pay that tax in the beginning. And there would be no need for the IRS. And I don't know how many thousands of IRS agents there are, but it's pretty scary to think about that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How long's the IRS been around? Since the 30s?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And
they definitely put in for some positions over the years, I'm assuming, and
it's a crazy thing because there's so many write-offs that you do have. Like when I looked at Donald Trump and saw what he didn't want to release any of his tax returns because he didn't pay any taxes, and that's so immediately you think, oh my God, he paid no taxes. Well, he did pay taxes. Think about how many thousands of employees that he has that have to pay taxes to do that. But on his income, when you get to a caliber of somebody like Donald Trump or Elon Musk or whatever, they have teams of people that work to maximize their tax deduction. That all goes away. Mm-hmm. So for somebody to introduce something like that and to say, hey, this is how it's going to be, they're really cutting their nose off because they get so many deductions that a lot of people don't get, which is really, really interesting to me because I don't know how. I know he's ruffling a lot of feathers from very rich people that are like, what the shit are you doing right now? Like capital gains. Mm-hmm. Like if you buy an investment property and you sell that investment property, as long as you buy it and it's equal or greater value, you have no tax. Well, that goes away. Mm-hmm. So you have to pay the taxes when you buy the property. And so that's it just is mind-boggling to me. I don't know.
And I guess maybe to your point, is there, you would think that they have, like you said, teams of people that are coming up with this idea, and trying to work through all the possible scenarios. Like, where does this or doesn't this work? How does this not benefit the American? Is this, and like you're saying, it could really, really, really fuck the rich. And then, but at the same time, if you have some of this just heavily involved with money coming and going, transactions, right? They're not necessarily rich, but they do a lot of things, right? Mm-hmm. And every one of those things ends up working against them with this. I could see you getting pissed off, but I would assume and this is me assuming that they've thought about some of those scenarios to where it's not going to be all bad. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense, right? We're not just cutting jobs to cut jobs. We're doing this because it makes sense for the American taxpayers. I would hope.
And I think there would have to be different tiers. I would probably need an accountant for this, but if you've got somebody that owns Ford, right? Like the company that owns Ford, and they have to spend so much money to you just keep filling that thing. You take a corporation that has thousands and thousands of employees. Well, they're not going to end up having to obviously pay the same as just a company that's much less. I don't know how does that work?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think and one of the things that they that like the Tea Party, that it's just so convoluted. It just needs to be simplified.
Yeah.
And that I understand that there's a bunch of reasons, funding education and all this the stuff that these taxes go to. And I know that they're not all in vain. They're not all going to some weird, person, gender makeover in Zimbabwe or whatever you said, right? It's not all that. But at the same time, it's so complicated that you never, as the citizen, you never win. You never really understand. You never get, unless you have a team of people that know how this shit works, you never really get to come out ahead. As much as you probably could if you knew all the loopholes and all that stuff.
Yeah, I can't even begin to speculate what's going on. But I do know that right now in our real estate market, last year was the first year in 33 years. That's a long time, right? We had no inventory. Mm-hmm. And it was the lowest inventory. That kept our price value up because that, vetted a lot of people that needed to sell and got out. But that thinned the herd as real estate agents because we went down 50% of sales in 1 year. You take 50% of sales out of there, and you've got all these people that are all up and coming real estate agents. They're all excited. They want to buy something. They want to sell something. And there's not a lot of buyers out there because the discussion that we had earlier, nobody really truly wants to move if they've got a lower interest rate. Mm-hmm. And then the people that, I'll just give you this crazy statistic. If you're buying a $500,000 house, and you're putting 3.5% down, your taxes, insurance, principal, and interest, you're running at like $3,000 a month. Who can afford $3,000 a month? That's crazy. And you're just trying to get in the door and knock it out. But on the other side, it's the perfect time to buy because your rent's $2,500, right? So you're paying $500 more. Yep. Rates are going to come down. They are. And when they do come down, property values are going to go up. So you're kind of at that point where I could buy a house now, and it's going to suck for a little bit, but then you're locking in because as soon as those rates go down, houses go up, and then you're paying more money. So I'm so glad that, that things are really, truly going to stabilize in our market. And we were just going up too fast, Joel. Mm-hmm. We were going crazy. Property values were going up 10-20% per year.
How many people are at your office?
35.
And how many competing offices are there in this valley?
11. Like truly so competing offices. Yeah. It is so insane.
It seemed for a little while, and you got some heavy hitters in your office. I was looking at your list today, and I've been here for 40 some odd years, and a lot of those names have been here, as long as I have or longer. And so it's interesting. Like, do you have somebody come in that is not a familiar name or face and is able to outperform some of the old dogs?
Absolutely. Yeah, because they want it. They're hungry and they're willing to do what it takes. And there's certain programs, it's just like what you do. If there's anything, if you're motivated, I don't care what industry you're in, if you're motivated, you can make an above average income in real estate. You can. But people don't want to put the work in. They don't want to put those crazy hours in. And people think that, oh, real estate agents make all this money. Those real estate agents that make that money, they work their asses off. And a lot of them, and I'm going to just say it's myself, I don't need to do that anymore. And I've built up a reputation for myself where my phone rings and people call me and they want to sell or they want to buy. And I earn that right. And that's a nice place to be at this particular point. I'm 57 years old. I don't need to go out and buy leads anymore. But on the other side, if I was up and coming, I could pretty much tell you exactly what to do and you would kill it. You'd absolutely kill it. But the amount of work that you have to put in, people don't want to do it.
No, and I think that's, and you've been in this game for a while now. And when you see them out there, are you seeing, just a steady decline in work ethic on your end too?
Not only work ethic, but so if you only do one deal a year, how proficient are you going to be in the industry? Yeah. You're really not.
No, yeah.
You're not going to be very, very efficient. But you got to start somewhere. You got to get going somewhere. I didn't sell a house for 6 months. 6 months, man. I was 23 years old and had a young family. Dude, I almost starved to death. You know what I mean? And got into it and did it. But it, just work paid off after time. And it didn't happen overnight. But there was a lot of people that I worked with that were making so much money, so I could see, there was a light at the end of the tunnel, like what you said, and it does roll, but it has to do with a lot with your personality. You could be not have a very good person. You could be a person that really truly has no personality at all and still make it because your analytical portion of your brain works. And so with social media, you can make yourself look like the most amazing person in the whole world. And the consumer has no idea, none. And you could be the smartest realtor with the best talents in the whole world, but have no technology back behind you, no social media, no nothing, and you'll die. You'll die. You'll die. But it doesn't take money to make money. It takes hard work to make money.
That's true.
And I one of my favorite people in the whole world, I don't know if you know Billy Merrill.
No.
Bill Merrill and we got into real estate very similar times, and Bill made it big. Bill went really, really big. He was a contractor. He pretty much built out Saratoga Springs. I don't know if you know that, but God, I have so much respect for this man. Bill went through a crazy time in his life, and to watch somebody lose everything, like everybody thinks that when you're on top of the world, nothing can happen to you. I watched this poor man lose everything that he worked for because it was a market change, and this guy came back swinging, and there wasn't a day that you couldn't drive down the street and see Bill Merrill signs. He had open house signs. So he would even sit other people's houses and say open house, but all you saw was Bill Merrill. And he had nothing. He lost everything. And to see this man build himself back up, and I think it was probably, I would say 24 months, but he had the work ethic. He knew what it took to do it. And it was so inspirational to me. And I just loved this man so much. To see him go from the top to the bottom, back to the top again in a very short period of time, you've got it.
Yeah. And that's, that was a common theme too with 08, 09 with in the construction industry. Saw it kind of weeded out the dudes that didn't have it, but were just kind of in there because there was so much going on that it was like we can't. And I think it's typical now as well. It's like we were building so much so fast, and you can't keep up. The trades can't keep up with the amount of work that they were having. To get somebody to come do a small job, it's almost impossible unless you go hire a handyman or something, right? These guys have these real big fish that they're trying to fry, and it's like, I'd love to help you. However, I'm booked for at least 3 months or whatever, right? And it's, it's starting to kind of, I don't know a ton of people in the trades anymore, but the companies that I talk to through work, they're not necessarily seeing a plateau, but that is the arc has gotten a lot less steep.
I agree.
It's not flatlining, but slowing down enough where if these guys wanted, if their guys wanted the weekend work, which they used to not be able to keep up with because they had real jobs still that they were having to work through the weekends, they can't keep their guys busy on the weekends anymore. So.
No. And then the other thing too is if you think about our younger generation, they don't want to work. And I'll call them out right now. They don't want to work. And you can call it a product of their parents. I don't care whatever. Maybe it's the internet. I don't know. But we don't have tradesmen.
Right.
And we've got to change that. We've got to change. And I think as a country, it is our duty. Like, remember when we used to have art and we used to have like band and we used to have auto shop, and we need to bring that shit back. And it is a vital component to our future, our immediate future. And I hope to God there's some changes in our policies, because our high schools, we could go into the military or we can go to college. So all these kids that are going to college right now are paying all this money to go to college. Whereas if you could put them through a 12-month process and train them how to be, and give them a certificate right out of high school. There's a lot of kids that don't really want to go through the crazy parts of school.
Right.
Their brains don't work. And mine didn't work that way. You could take these kids and turn them into ninjas. By the time they're 19, 20 years old, they could come flying out and do it. Joel, I'm so passionate about this, and I wish there was something out there. And I know that the Builders Association, they've got some things, but I'd really like to see this in our high schools, and get, because kids would. Did you ever have that when you were in high school?
I didn't do auto, but there was auto, and there was, the kids still, there's an auto body at Douglas, but I do know, and I was talking about Nate Newton earlier, but I think at some point he was talking with the high school, and this could have been a long time ago, and I don't know if there was anything that ever came from it, but developing some sort of a program that keeps these kids engaged and interested. And I think there's so much focus on academia that you are forgetting about the arts, you're forgetting about the blue collar jobs. You're not training kids how to be efficient once they graduate and do their taxes and all these things, that you're really worried about how you're going to write, an essay, right? Which is, I'm 44 and I only write essays because I'm still in school, right? It's not that I've ever used one in my career. Not once have I written an essay. I've written some long emails, but I don't need to know how to do APA.
No.
MLA.
God, no.
I don't need to do that. But there's so much emphasis on that portion of it, and mathematics is important if you're going to get in the trades. There's no doubt about that, right?
Got to know your math.
You got to know some basic geometry, and there are some things you're going to want to know. But that's and to your point, should be part of that program. Like, you're going to want to know how to figure out these angles on these cuts, or on these hip roofs and whatever it would be, right? Whatever trade it is, and there's tricks in each one of them. But I mean, it would take the tradesmen of the area to sit down with somebody as a collective and be like, we can do this. We have the resources to maybe make something like that happen.
Look at how many retired people that are getting out of plumbing, electrical, framing, and they're at this point where they don't want to do it because their bodies are done. However, if you could make the same amount of money as a liaison and show up to a high school and you get paid a salary and you teach these kids how to do what's going on, and they get to see real world situations where, then in my perfect world, I have this vision where we could build a house, you take these kids, the same group of kids, so you build a team. So each individual they have to show up at the same time, they have to do the same thing. And this is during school. I mean, this shit happens at school. Everything's modular right now anyways.
Right.
So you build this stuff in a controlled environment, and you teach them how to do that. You show them how to use a nail gun, and they read the plans, they do that. Holy shit. It would change society. I truly believe, because right now, when you pull up on any job site, the majority of them are Hispanic. And I I am telling you right now, I love Hispanic people because they are willing to do the work. Right. They show up and they're here and they are busting their ass. Americans, we have lost that. We have lost our and it's because it's just the way that it is. Mm-hmm. You take our kids right now and you show them, like I said, you and I've never been really, really smart when it comes to schoolwork. And I loved when I was in high school, I loved the fact that my auto shop teacher just hung out with me and he showed me. One of my favorite stories, he lowered a car on me one time. His name is Mr. Moore. He lives in Carson City. I love this man. He lowered a car down on me because he kept saying, Dennis, I'm so impatient. I am the most impatient person in the world. And he said, you got to put a jack stand under there, son, because if this jack fails, it's going to come down. It's going to kill you. And I would get underneath it. It's just like I was so wired because I loved this class so much. And he lowered a car down on me, on my chest, all the way down on my chest. And I was freaking out because a car is pretty heavy, right?
A car is pretty heavy, yeah.
But he to this day, if I ever work on a car, I make sure there's a jack stand underneath there. Mm-hmm. And that man was like, so, but that one experience with that one man, think about how much experience with all these kids that we could have and how it could change the entire landscape of our country if we could have build a house together or work on a car together. And I think we need to take a lot of our focus off of the classroom type learning in that it's so advanced right now. To be honest with you, we could learn a lot of stuff online. We could learn a lot of stuff with virtual learning through math and English, stuff that we could achieve just virtually. I mean, look at AI right now. We could take a kid that is in first grade and make him a mathematician by fourth grade.
Mm-hmm. As scary as it is, think about the things that it can do, right? And to your point, like, you look at modern problem solving and you give this computer and you're able to essentially code the question into the prompt, and you tell it this, and it could give you a solution to something that you can't figure out, right? And there's going to be a lot of ways that AI is going to benefit us. I mean, in the medical field, I mean, you put in, all these symptoms, or like you can go in for 100 different MRIs and not going to be able to find anything, but you put in all this stuff and AI will know exactly what it is, right? If you can tell it, it'll at least limit it down to whatever. And I think that, like you said, if you understand how to use it, if you're the guy in the trades, if you're the kid in the trades and you're going, I don't understand how to make this one thing work. And you can go, AI, I'm stupid. And AI is like, I got you. This is how it is. And it's like, you know me, right? You have this buddy that's actually teaching you in a way you can learn. Like if you're learning how to drive a stick and you got somebody that's yelling at you, you don't do well with getting yelled at when you're trying to learn how to drive a stick.
I love what you're saying right now.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be one of those things. It's like you just need the right person in the car.
You know, somebody yelling in your ear, oh my God, you let it. This thing talks to you very methodically. And so listen, you're just going to take your, I saw that you messed up a little bit. You just take down. And that's what that new thing from China is. I don't know if you've seen anything about it, but that's what it did. It dumbing it down. Mm-hmm. So it's not like all the fast computers, from what I understand. This slows it down, so it's so much more efficient, and it's so much less. It costs less to produce. So when they introduce this, it gives you like just exactly what you're talking about, like talking about driving a stick shift. It talks you through it. Like it's not just bullet points. Like right now when ChatGPT, it'll give you all bullet points. It'll write an essay for you. It'll do things like that, but it doesn't give you that interaction, that one-on-one. And God dang it, what is it called? Do you know what it's called? That thing that is like that blew up the stock market. Dang it, I can't.
No, I don't.
It's amazing, but it is a game changer because it's less expensive and it's more efficient, and it dummies it down to people so it's not so like just bullet points. It's more one-on-one, I guess you would say.
I had a professor in one of my classes a couple semesters ago, and he was in the IT field, and he was so ecstatic about AI, right? And he goes, I don't understand this college. I'm at WNC, and he's like, this college is so anti-AI that they're trying to keep it out of your papers and all this stuff. And he goes, I see the potential for it, right? I mean, is it to a point where you can take it and actually start eliminating jobs? Kind of, right? You're going to shift focus. Like you have to, like, and this could be, you know, because it's so premature right now, but you still have to massage Chat GPT to tell it exactly what you're asking for, right? I can give it a bunch of prompts and it writes me some dog shit. And I'm like, a computer wrote that and it's terrible. You know, you brought me a lot of information and I can now go put into an essay, and I appreciate that, AI. Thank you. But I'm never going to turn some pile of shit like this in, you know? And so you're spending, you're getting ideas. And I think that's the concept that he was going after. It's able to conceptualize and compartmentalize these ideas and focus them on what you're trying to achieve, right? And I think that would be huge in any scenario. You can't go wrong with that, right? If you're a mechanic diagnosing a car and you have all these symptoms and you're like, I've changed every fucking thing on this car, right?
The thing breaks it.
And it goes. Like, you forgot the tensioning pulley or whatever it would be, right? I don't know. But it's this one little thing that you may have overlooked, and it would know that because it knows the 97 Ford Taurus really well because it's been prompted to ask, you know, how to fix those things before, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot to it. And I think that, you know, on that topic, eliminating jobs, and I wanted to see how you guys in real estate are utilizing AI to help produce better results.
It's terrifying to me. It's absolutely terrifying. And I'll tell you one experience that just happened to me yesterday. So I did a mailer, right? And this mailer was specific to a neighborhood, Glenwood. I'll tell you, is this neighborhood that I have 2 buyers for, and they love this neighborhood and they want to live on this neighborhood. So I wrote this letter to every single person because I just sold a house over there. And when that house closed, these buyers came out of the woodwork and they want to live on Glenwood because it's so bitchin'. And I wrote this letter out from my heart. It was like, oh my gosh, I have a buyer for your house. It was like a typical, like, perfect, but it wasn't sleazy. It wasn't like, you know, and they had a little AI logo thing in the corner. Would you like to see what AI would write, opposed to what I just wrote? Uh-huh. And so it took me like an hour to write this freaking letter for these people on there because I truly, this thing in 1 second goes and it spit this out, and it was so much better than the letter that I wrote. It put this fluff in it. It did these things. But what I realized, Joel, it wasn't me.
No,
it wasn't
right.
It wasn't me.
That's it.
My heart was not in. Mm-hmm. However, it was a way better rendition of what I wrote. But when you look side by side at the 2 letters, this was very scripted, very very AI. Mm-hmm. And I changed theirs a little bit, but I used that rendition of that to mail out to everybody. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of weird, but it was so much better. It was more, I don't know, relatable. And I try to look at like a buyer or a seller, and I try to look at I don't like a lot of verbiage. Mm-hmm. I don't like a lot. I don't know how I'm not very analytical when it comes to certain things. So when I read what that thing wrote, I was like, holy shit, in 1 second.
Yeah.
That's how fast. So now apply that to real estate. I mean, I truly would like to talk to you about this on this particular podcast. And then there's a lot of people that are probably really not going to want to hear this right now, but this is the most terrifying time in the world to be a real estate agent and a title officer and a mortgage broker. because we are experiencing something that we've never seen. And what I just told you, that one letter, now imagine if you could call off of a sign and a voice, I don't care if it's 11 o'clock at night, and a voice comes on and they know more about that property than you know about that property. And you can ask that voice every question and it will answer you. And it will send you plot maps, and it will send you flood maps, and it will tell you what your insurance rate is. I don't have that information. Joel, I don't. I don't know this.
Yeah.
And this now escalates to the whole next level. Do you want to make an offer? I would like to make an offer. Have you been pre-approved? Well, I don't know yet. Would you just do me a favor and put your social security number in here, and we'll pre-approve you? Then you're pre-approved, and there's 10 lenders that shoot over the best rates in the entire that there are to offer to you. You just gave them your social security number. They just drive the best information they could get. So you have these people that do all this stuff that they sit behind their desk and they do, and in 1 second it comes back. We have 3 offers for you and we'll lock you in at this rate. Do you want to buy the house now? And you go, oh my God, yeah, this is what your payment is. So you hit, I'll buy this house for this payment. I would do that. There's no commitments at this point, nothing. Now the offer gets sent over to the seller, the person that owns the house, who just put it on the market. And they get an offer on their house with the pre-approved buyer. And they're like, oh my God, this is great.
In seconds.
In seconds, now you've got this offer. You've taken away the real estate agent right there. Now you get to negotiate directly with the seller. The seller gets an email. He's got an accepted offer on his house. Now you just have to negotiate the little things like inspections. Oh, you want an inspection? 5 inspectors
Click
pop
the
up.
box, yeah.
5 inspectors.
Yeah.
And they're there, and they can do, and they're fighting over it. They're fighting for the opportunity to just get the opportunity to just inspect the house. Now you've made it there. The inspection's done. Now it's just about the money. Oh, money's already taken care of. It's already through I see this happening.
Oh, easy. And that's going to be in every single industry, though. I mean, and that is going to be almost everywhere. You know, I mean, any market that can transpire into. You know?
Anything. And we're all about convenience.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's like, I'm that way. I want to have that. But I would think in your biggest transaction in your life that you would want to rely on somebody to hold your hand and take it all the way through. This is how I feel, because I mean, these are like, you become family at the end of the whole thing. They're doing their largest transaction in their life, and they are trusting you to do that. Well, if it comes down to saving you $20,000, I like you, Joel. I do. But I'm going to go ahead and go with option B.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and that's just, and then our millennials, and I love our millennials because they've taken us as a society, like to the level that we're at right now. They've taken us to this because they have proven to us during COVID that we really, truly do not need the middleman. And they are all about getting their satisfaction as fast as they can get it. And I'm thinking our older generation, thank God, are still here, but in another 5 years, maybe even 24 months, you're going to see a shift in the real estate industry that is going to be absolutely terrifying. Isn't that nuts?
It is nuts. I mean, like, what does that do in the short term? What does that even look like when you start going? You can go, real estate market goes weird, right? Things like whatever happens, right? Like, and then where does that start trickling to? What does that start doing, right? Where does that go? What is that? At some point we knew, and by we, I'm just saying me, but you start thinking something's got to give, right? So it's something. It's not necessarily like the balloon of 2008, 2009. It's not that same thing where people were getting these ridiculous loans, the balloon payments, or what, I don't know what they were called, but those things
Right.
where everybody
Nutty loans.
all of a sudden it was like your mortgage fucking tripled or whatever it would be, and it was like, and at the time, right now we're everything's uberly expensive, but I think we are still keeping up, and I think you said it earlier, we're still spending, we're still buying things, and I don't think as a society right now we're all stuck, and it's not easy to go spend all this money on eggs, right, or whatever.
$1 an egg.
Stupid, right? But we're still able to buy the eggs because it's all at this point relative. The wages went up. I mean, people are struggling, don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm trying to say, but it's not like we're going to see this all of a sudden come on us like trifold on top of that. It's going to be something, you're starting to see the strain of all that, and what that looks like, I don't know.
I don't either. I don't. I do know that there's, if you can take out some of this control from the government, I mean, they truly steer us. They do. And stuff that, and we're just such sheep. Mm-hmm. It's so screwed up to see how we have to follow like this. If it's much more transparent, which I believe this is like kind of a bad thing, but it's a good thing. If people can see this bird flu thing, I don't know if you followed this or not, but this is a big deal. It's killing cows, mm-hmm. and the amount of birds and the amount of, like, our egg supply is, and this isn't something that's coming back overnight.
No.
Like, there's a lot of, and that's this tiny little bit, this fraction of what is going on. If you can somehow control that, and that's what AI does. That's what's the most terrifying
mm-hmm.
thing. I think it's, we have a deficiency in the eggs, or we have a deficiency in the cows, or there's this. They can binarily put that in there, mm-hmm. and say, you guys need to breed more cows. Oh, by the way, our milk supply is going to be less because of this, and we need to do this. And then it gives farmers more of I just think we're at the beginning. And when I said this is year one, wait till year two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're going to see things. So now let's talk about investment opportunities.
Perfect.
Like, what is a good idea to get into, right? Everybody I know is like terrified of any cryptocurrency. Like, there's a lot of people, younger generation especially, are jumping on the crypto. What are you hearing about that?
The only people that I know that are actively investing in the stock market steer clear of crypto, and they prefer tangible monies. And I think,
why is that?
That because they're older, and I think that they're safer, and I think that's maybe one of the things that, and I'm not older, but like crypto is still so,
it's not backed by anything.
There's
no standard.
Nothing. Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty much who says, right? It's whoever's saying what it is. Nobody knows who's saying that. So
the brick, it's backed by gold.
Mm-hmm.
That is a tangible asset. So you can trade knowing that it has a standard. We don't have a standard in the United States. And so you've got Elon Musk, and you've got Donald Trump doing his thing. You've got XRP and all these different things, but it's backed by nothing.
Mm.
So it's like air money. There's no security in it. But I think if it does come, and if our administration does back it by something, it's going to go crazy, because it's going to be our new world currency.
Yeah.
And everybody's buying this shit on air. I mean, it's basically air right now. It's like not worth anything. Bitcoin has set so many records across the board, and it is truly not based upon anything. I don't understand mining Bitcoin. Do you?
No, absolutely not. No idea. And it's one of those things that, I mean, had you done it in the beginning, like the dude that had the floppy disk or whatever that had all the Bitcoin on it, and the dude throw it in the trash or whatever the story is. But
no, I know. I heard that story.
Fucking crazy. Billions, I think now. Yeah.
Hundreds of billions. Yeah.
He tried to buy I just read this week, he tried to buy the landfill so he'd go find it because it'd be worth it if he did. But anyways,
that's a good story.
It'd be fucking awesome if he did. Imagine.
But then what about the guy that just disappeared with all the hundreds of billions of Bitcoins, and he like disappeared?
Yeah.
And they don't even know where he is. Mm-hmm. And okay, well, what is that? Mm-hmm. You know, that takes my confidence as a person in any of that. It takes it out. So now take all these old timers that have bought all this stuff for years and years and years, and they're like, I ain't buying it. I'm not, sorry. And maybe we're in this .com, that's what it was, the .com.
Oh, the .com.
Yeah.
Boom, yeah.
That shit just was worth nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they were buying those Super Bowl ads for millions of dollars, and all of a sudden it folded because it had no value. It had no nothing. And I don't know. I just know real estate, and that's the only thing I know. I know buy real estate because everybody's going to need a place to live. And they're not manufacturing any more land.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the sustainable ideas that are coming out are the neatest things. And some of the EDUs, like you, right now, you have this beautiful piece of property. You could put an EDU in the back of your house. An accessory dwelling unit that they make that shows up on a fucking truck in your backyard. And all you have to do is provide water, sewer, and power to it. And it's $50,000. So for a $50,000 investment, you could be making $1,000 a month. And all these counties and cities and municipalities are pushing it because they have no more real estate. Everybody's like, crumble down. I think there's a huge market for stuff like that. I really do. And I look at people trying to maximize their wealth and like stuff that can take care of their family for years to come. And things like that are so crazy because if you have a house that's in town, and everybody likes to live in town, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they got these big lots, and they can have one of these things dropped off in a crane in their backyard, and they're making whatever, you know. And they just are. I get excited about. I get excited about that. I get excited about what we talked about our high schools. I get excited about our sustainable energy with these kids planting these gardens over at Heritage Park, and like all of them show up and they are so excited. They grow the shit and they picked it, and it's successful. I mean, you can't believe the harvest that these kids are getting, Joel.
That's awesome.
Joel, it's insane.
I am not. I mean, I have a garden. And every year,
you're not good at it.
It just sucks. But I enjoy doing it, and there's just some sort of, just like that escape, that reprieve. I mean, to get away, get out there and just talk to tomato plants or whatever. And but good for them for creating a fucking garden and doing it because I can't. So better them than me, I guess.
Yeah,
little shits. I think that's awesome though because that is one of those things that when they do get out of school and they do get on their own and they do. Get just even if a little plot. I mean, get one of those little box planters from Costco or something. You know what I mean? Something they'll know exactly what to do to grow whatever they want.
So what do you tell your kids? Like, how old are your kids?
My son is almost 14 and my daughter is almost 12.
Good God.
I know.
Holy shit. Do you remember when we went on our first ATV ride?
I do.
They were little
babies, yeah.
So what do you tell them? What do you want them to do?
This is a great conversation because you have Max is how old?
Max is 30 years.
Okay, so you've been through all this shit and you've seen a lot of shit, and so I think the biggest thing I try to tell my kids is like my son is super smart and he most often is trying so hard to be cool that he's masking how smart he is to hang out.
He's dumbing himself down.
And it drives me nuts because he'll come home and ask me the dumbest shit, you know?
Because that's socially, because his friends are asking him these questions, and he already knows the answer.
He already knows the answer. And I mean, he had ambitions to be, he wants to be an engineer in aerospace. He want to get into aerospace. And I was like, dude, please do that. That'd be fucking awesome, right? But now his dreams are shattered because aerospace engineers aren't cool. And he doesn't want to really do that, you know? But, so to your question, I do tell my kids that, you know, you can only do so much as a parent. And you can speak to this more than I can, but you're throwing something good away to hang out with this guy that's not going to be there in a couple of years anyway, right? And you can tell that story over and over. I mean, this person is toxic. This person's not good for you. Get away from this guy or this gal or whatever, right? And the kid's like, oh, they're pretty cool. You know, they're cool. And, you know, they give that stuff up. So what I do tell my kids is push forward with what you're good at, right? Know your strengths. Capitalize on those. And if you have weaknesses, you know, use that, you know, and grow from that. It's important. And I think that's why, I mean, I say that from, you know, deep within my own heart, because that's what I'm doing right now at 44 years old, going back to school and trying to capitalize on my weaknesses, the things that I could do better, be better at. And I want my kids to figure that stuff out a lot earlier than their 40s, that they could have had this stuff all along, you know? So now you got a 30, and how old's the daughter? She's
34.
Okay. And so what did you tell them? What are you telling them now?
You know what? They figured it out, man. They're just little driven humans. My son, he bucked me, and I never thought in a million years. I'm like, we paid for their college. We did what we were supposed to do as parents. We had everything, and we went on a European vacation. And my son told me when we landed. He didn't tell me before we left. Thank God, he'd never told me this. But it was the neatest thing. We had saved for this vacation forever. We all went out. And he tells me he's not going to college. So the house is paid for. Everything's there. College is paid for. And he says, Dad, I'm not going to college. I said, what are you going to do? He says, I'm going to go to golf school. I said, well, you're cut off. Because we just spent so much money on you. We love you to death, but I'm not going to fund you so you can go to golf school. He goes, don't worry about it, Dad. I've already looked at what it's going to cost. I've taken the loan out. And I'm moving to San Diego. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to go pursue golf. And I lost my mind. I've never been so sad, broken heart, like pissed off, because it wasn't my plan. It wasn't what I wanted him to do. Do you know how successful that kid is? Do you know that he went to golf school? He's a phenomenal golfer. He's never going to be a pro. I hope he's listening to this right now, because I love him more than you can ever imagine. He's the most unique individual, but he did it on his own terms. And you have these kids, and they're going to go do these things, and you're going to want to mold them, and you're going to want to take them. And face it, it's not your life. They are going to do their own thing.
You did.
Yeah.
I did. They do. Kids do. It's true. I know. And you spend so much energy, so much effort, you know, trying to get them to do these things, right? And it's from bringing up the trash can to taking out the trash to
making your bed.
Yeah, just do these stupid little things, right? And then at the end of the day, they're gonna do their thing.
They're gonna do their thing. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You got these kids, right? What are you going to guide them to do? Are you going to tell them to go in the military? Are you going to tell them to go to school? Are you going to tell them to
find their path. What? I'm like, this is the time when you need to start telling them what's your plan, because they're at that age where they have to start dreaming. What do you say?
My children are both very different. You know, my daughter has aspirations to be a teacher at 12 years old, and she has for years, and she loves, even now she's in middle school, she's on the Hope Squad. I don't know if you know what that is.
I do.
Okay, yeah. She's on the Hope Squad. Like, she's all about that aspect of her life right now, you know, and I think that's beautiful. You know, I would have thought that my son would have, because he's got a huge heart, and I think a lot of times that gets him in trouble, you know. He's lost right now, I think.
Why?
I don't know. I just think he's struggling to find, like, he's at that age where he's trying to figure out who he is, and he's letting, again, other people define who he is. And, you know, the stuff he comes home, it's neat because I watch it roll off of his shoulders. You know, he has the feathers of a duck when these people are, you know, but it's like consistently kids will be just completely ruthless to him. A couple weeks go by, and they're like inviting him back, and he goes back. Like,
Is it social media?
No, he doesn't have social media. We've dodged that bullet for now. They don't have that. They have phones, and you know, and it's fairly strict. I mean, you know, I get up at a little after 4, and so they go to bed with me. You know, which sucks for them because their friends are always like, "You have baby bedtime."
Yeah, who cares?
But I'm like, my son needs to sleep, right? Because he would sleep in all day, you know, and I think you know how that works. But yeah, I'm just, you know, what do I tell him? I don't know. I believe in him. I have all the faith in the world in him. I know he's going to make the world a better place with whatever it is. I know that's why he's here, and he has the heart and the brain to do it. I just think he needs to take the journey and figure out what that is, you know. He's in advanced classes in school. I mean, he's smart. He just, you know, he's letting his buddies, you know, kind of beat him up on whatever it is that, you know, kids
like
do.
what?
I don't know. He doesn't tell me. He only tells his mom.
That hurts my heart because
bums me out.
It's so political. I'm not like political, but like they're bullied. They're attacked in this age. You know, they're like, and they're young. They shouldn't be going through that. But thank God you took social media away from them. Thank God.
Yeah, we're hanging on to that as long as we can. Every day. Is there like every week? You know, can we get Snapchat or whatever, right? And I said no. Like, all the rest of them are for old people, I guess. Like if you're on Facebook, you're really old, and then if you're on Instagram, you're old.
I don't want to do that. That's
TikTok
Facebook.
is gross. Yeah, like you're unless you have Snapchat, you're.
So you and Bree are on the same page, huh?
Yeah, and you know it's tough because you watch. You know, it's the parents have great kids. I'm not speaking ill of anybody's kids, but you know, it's like everybody else has Snapchat, right? And they're all talking about it, and then everybody outside of this house has Snapchat. So it's like, what is so bad with Snapchat? And
no.
I'm like, I don't think we need Snapchat. Because I've seen Snap. I had Snapchat once, and I was like, this is fucking gross.
Remember MySpace?
Yeah, I remember MySpace. I mean, I still go on there occasionally.
Yeah. No, you do not.
But one of the most beautiful thing is that we are good people and we are raising good kids. And are you doing something wrong? Should you be doing something different? And I look at this with my grandkids that are coming up right now. And I can't tell you how crazy it is to not, because I reprimand my kids. You get swat on the butt. You can't do that now. And this difference is a big deal. And so they call it soft parenting, where you can't, you're not supposed to raise your voice at them. You're not supposed to swat them on the butt. And I think there's a big problem that's going to happen in this next generation because kids want boundaries, right? You grew up with boundaries. I grew up with boundaries. You knew what you were doing wrong. And when you did something wrong, you got reprimanded. If you hit somebody, it was one of those deals.
You learned.
You're going to get it. But they don't do that, no, Joel. They don't. And
that's tough. And
that is such a fundamental thing.
Yeah.
And I love my kids so much, but I'm so afraid. So it's crazy, but my son and daughter-in-law, they do reprimand, and they're very strict. And my daughter she does not, you talk it out. However, when you look at the two kids, I mean, they're just kids, and they're just kids, so they act the same. So one reprimands and one doesn't, and so I don't really know if there's any.
You're feeling like kind of the same vibes off both the
right.
Huh.
And they're both great parents, but it's so interesting to see the different parenting dynamics with it.
You guys had kids fairly young then.
We did.
Right. Do you think that it's going to be the same thing where they're going to go, you shouldn't be doing this with your kids? Like, as a grandparent, do you think that? Like, are you going, you shouldn't be soft parenting your kids? Or you know that she's making the right choice?
I think the answer to this question is that if we took social economics out of it, and you were raising your family and I was raising my family, and there was no TV, there was no nothing, we would have our own animal instincts. Like, we would raise our kids the way that we think they should be raised. But I think with all these different outside influences, it's infecting us. It's making us like, oh, that's not what they say. That's what I keep hearing. That's not what you're supposed to do because they say that you're not supposed to do that. You shouldn't feed them that because they said you should not. However, I think if you took your family and I took my family and we didn't have any outside influence, I don't think that our parenting abilities would be much different because it's human instinct. We would pretty much go, hey, I'm going to swat you on the butt. And they go, oh, I won't do that. However, when you add that to it, don't you think it's so fascinating? Like, your friends, I mean, you've got friends. I know your friends, and you know my friends. When you see how you're supposed to do it because they said, it changes things. It really does. It's like, it's such an influence due to the way that you may think about me, or I may think 100%. About you. If you do that,
it's like all sociological, and
it is. Yeah. What is that about?
What is that about? Nobody knows. It is fascinating because I think that even if you have a group of friends, right, you're going to still, and you're talking about the primal instincts, right? You're talking about what's encoded in our DNA. At some level, you're going to know what you're supposed to do, but when society's telling you not to, right? And you're going, everything in my being is saying I should swat this kid and say this is bad. But now we don't hit because then they go to school and they hit, right? But I don't know. I mean, I feel like kids have been hitting kids in school forever. Bullying is a different deal. I mean, I have to tell you, like, we grew up with bullying, and there is that, but then that's that hierarchy that you're gonna have to accept the fact that there's gonna be bullies. It never goes away.
It's never gone away, and it's never going to go away. You're not gonna make any. There has been some serious bullying issues I've had in my life. Have you ever been bullied?
Oh, absolutely.
Dude, it sucks.
It does suck.
However, Joel, you're a fucking badass because of it.
That's right.
You like rise up because you don't want to be bullied anymore and just you fucking beat the shit out of the motherfucker.
Have to go. Yeah.
On the other side, if you put a Band-Aid on it and you don't let it like run its course, that kid, he represses himself and he becomes something that he should not be. And I think a lot of the stuff that's been happening, a lot of the like crazy shit that's been happening, it should never happen.
No.
And if you would have let the kid just beat the shit out of the other fucking kid, and like he got pissed off enough, but you're not doing that because you just. I don't know if that's the right thing to say or the wrong thing to say.
And I think here's one of the main differences now, and it has probably, there's always been some anomalies, but you know, throughout me growing up, you saw fights, right? And you get into a fight, and if somebody's getting it gets to a point where like, okay, dude,
how old are you?
44.
I mean, like when you were in a fight. Or you saw the fight?
12, 13. I started, like, fights probably 12 or 13.
Are you at Carson Valley? Mm-hmm.
But
Carson Valley was extreme.
It was. And there were some dudes, like, there was a lot of dudes who was, like, absolutely fucking not, right? And so, but the idea is that if you saw somebody that was beyond getting their ass kicked, it was like, this thing's over. You know, now it's like, people will readily stand by and film it for fucking TikTok and just let them just go into unconsciousness or go into a coma or whatever.
Did you see that?
I did not. No, I didn't have to. I mean, there's been some gross stuff I've seen, you know, even recent years, but I think that's all part of the thing of people not being willing to step in and help, right?
You mean like recently as you are aged now?
I would say probably in the last 5 years, I've seen something that was... people should have jumped in and been
horrific.
Like, yeah, gross. Nevada Day event up in Carson. Grown ass man to try and do the right thing. These dudes are getting into it. Tried to back them off each other. Ended up almost killing them. And didn't stop.
I heard about that.
You know who I'm talking about.
That was horrific.
Yeah. And so that kind of stuff, right? Enough people go, dude, okay, he got to the fucking point, right? And you back the stuff off, like, this fight's over. Like, we used to go, you would settle it, and like my dad would talk about it all the time. You have a problem with the guy, either call him out, go get the shit beat out of you, or you beat the shit out of him, and that's how you establish the pecking order. Like, now you're the guy.
It's over. It's over. When it's done, it's done.
It's done.
Like, right? You guys just...
You did it. Okay. You kicked my ass. I got it. I won't mouth off to you anymore.
I don't need your friend to kick me in the face 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing, too. These pussies. These guys that they... really never fought a fight in their entire life, and these guys come out of nowhere. They're the darkness, and they punch you in the face, or they kick you, or they do, and you never even know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
But those are the ones that do the damaging.
Mm-hmm.
The results actually are the ones that you have to live with for the rest of your life. And I had a friend of mine at a wedding just recently, and he's the most beautiful person in the whole world. And all he was trying to do was just break up a fight. But you got that one guy that came in and he just kicked him in the head. And it changed his life forever. Like forever. And that's the stuff. That's like what our dads taught us. Don't be a pussy. Right? Like, stand up. Fight a man face to face. Don't kick a guy in the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You never do that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's
tough. I mean, it's tough now. I mean, because, like I said, I think there's enough influence, like you're saying, that, you know, people are now like, how much can we catch on video and live stream or whatever it is, you know, that you're putting on whatever platform. And I think that changes the dynamic where people are going now for entertainment value versus just trying to figure out, you know, exactly what's going on. Like, this guy has obviously a problem with this one guy. I mean, I'll tell you what, this Nevada Day this year, we went out.
Where were you guys parked at?
At Mom and Pop's.
Oh, I love that place. That's where I parked.
Shout out to Mom and Pop's.
That was literally my very first place I ever did Nevada Day.
It's good. There's only one thing I want to talk about, Dennis, and this is an important community event that is going to be taking place in the next couple of months.
Okay.
And if you're not aware, I feel like it's my civic duty to talk about this a little bit. Now, there is a local whiskey group of fellas by the name of Team Whiskey. And they do.
How come I'm not a part of this?
Well, you're going to be, and that's the beauty of it. And this is why we're bringing it up right now, because it is going to be so. So last year they launched their inaugural Whiskey Bonanza up in Southlake, and it was so much fun. But it started snowing up there, and when it started snowing, there was thousands of people in the event center on the show floor. And we were there. First Line Ballistics was there with ODM Defense, having an absolute blast. There was unlimited whiskey tasting, unlimited. And I'm talking about big guns like Elijah Craig, Horse Soldier. I mean, Team Whiskey, obviously. There was so many. I can't remember. The lineup was huge, but they had these big tasting booths, right? And you got to drink as much whiskey as you wanted. And they wouldn't even kick you out. They didn't even care. There's like events for the family, like archery things. You get to shoot little cap guns, all these really cool things. And they're doing it again. And so the reason I'm bringing this up, because last year the weather was definitely played a major part in the success of the event. Towards the end of the night, I mean, it kind of cleared out there when the roads started getting really dicey. Kingsbury Grade got closed down, so people couldn't get home, and it got a little weird. So people started leaving early, and the next thing you know, it was kind of. But this year, Reno Livestock Event Center, April 5th, 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. The Team Whiskey Bonanza is going down in Reno. Yeah. So if you are in the market for some instruction,
it's all about bringing value, right? Like
100%.
I want to bring value to my family. Mm-hmm. I want something to bring my family there, and I think this is a good opportunity.
It's gonna be a great
to do
one.
that.
And there's going to be, and this year, last year the food vendors were insane, but this year, what my understanding is, talking to the guys at Team Whiskey, Kenny and Kevin, it's next level. So like what we saw last year was awesome, and like I said, it was no brainer. We were going to come back, but I think this year it's going to step it up to something we haven't seen before.
Do you see this thing growing?
100%. So the guys at Team Whiskey are visionaries, right? They're doing these archery shoots.
Are they having competitions?
They are. There's, and I can't speak to it because I don't do archery, so I don't know how it works, but there is definitely competition. Always a competition. I think that the way it works is there's a point system. You know, you get to go in there, and I think it's all like you're not actually hunting things, but it's like virtual maybe or something. Like you get to you're drawing bows and stuff, but you're not shooting animals.
But you're actually drawing.
You're drawing, yeah. So it's my understanding. I could be completely off base on this, but you're not hunting it heavily. I don't think it doesn't make sense to me, like with a group of people. But they do want to They do want to hear it heavily. They do want down there, and these guys have grown this brand from a couple of dudes wheeling their wife out of the hospital, calling themselves Team Whiskey, to a clothing brand, to a whiskey label, to archery shoots, to Whiskey Bonanza. Like these guys know what they're doing, and they have big dreams, they have big hopes, and I think people around them are in full support of everything they're doing.
Well, thank you for having me on.
Dennis, this has been so easy, and like when we talked, in the beginning of that, we didn't really necessarily know how it was going to go. I mean, I don't know real estate, and you obviously do, and I think that it was beneficial and super fun.
All right, let's get the hell out of here.
Okay, you can find me Bourbon and Ballistics at all the socials: Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, even Facebook. If you're old, really old. I appreciate you hanging out with us, Dennis. Thank you. Oligarch Whisky, you made the night that much more awesome. We appreciate you. Until next time, grab yourself a glass. Hang out with Dennis. Let's talk some Bourbon and Ballistics.
I cross state lines with hillbillies and guns. It's been a hell of a ride and a whole lot of fun. They gave me many names down there in Dixie, but the man